Hello. Hey guys, welcome to my lovely channel. I'm so excited to have you guys here and start doing this every month.
Yay!
We're so excited.
Can you tell?
Wow.
Can you tell? I'm ready.
We love your channel. We love the freedom of
Yeah,
Nine
you guys
Lives
just love not
Astrology.
having to censor your curse words. I get it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that
can
too.
swear like I'm meant to swear. I was born to swear.
Just a bunch of potty mouths over here.
I
Yeah,
have a mouth.
we do.
Use it.
It's one of many benefits of my channel, and I'm really excited because I've missed you guys. It's been so fun. For those of you who don't recognize, my co-hosts are Alex Amorosi and Whitney Kranz. And Alex and Whitney and I met making awesome astrological content over at the Nightlight Astrology channel run by Adam Ellenboss. And we've done some collabs there. We do a weekend wisdom series over there where we talk about planetary dignities and celebrity charts, and we talk about the transits in really zoomed in detail. Like we recently did 45 minutes on just one of the eclipses. So definitely go check out Adam's channel. But I love making stuff with you guys, and I really enjoy doing these month aheads. I've shared this story before on my channel, but I did a month ahead podcast for about 4 years before I started making content of any other kind. And when I got off the month aheads with Adam, I was like, oh, I can't wait to not have to do this. And I miss it. Isn't that sick? Maybe it's Stockholm syndrome.
It is not sick. I think there's something really special about zooming out on the entire month. I think we also get, like with these months, February, March, we get the added benefit that the lunations are kind of aligned with the Gregorian calendar, right? So it actually feels, the month feels like a cycle, right? Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but I'm in the same boat.
It's always fun to see where everything's going, because astrology to me is always about probabilities and trends, and like looking at where the trend lines are going over the month. And then it's always fun too to go back and look at it and see like, what did I get? What did I not see coming? Because sometimes like you'll see a transit in a certain way, and then you'll look back, it's like, oh, it actually manifested like this. And that always helps like kind of just bolster your astrological knowledge and fun.
Yeah, I think the month is the perfect token as well because it's pretty aligned with the lunar. Like you said, Whitney, the Gregorian month doesn't always align with the lunar cycle. When it does, you're in it. I mean, for the first 2 years of my doing month ahead, I was doing lunar month ahead. So it was not attached to the month. It was weird dates. And the storylines are crystal clear when you're looking moon cycle to moon cycle. It does not always line up with the month. And that makes it, that's a fun challenge for us as astrologers, is to try to translate that. But I think, I do these weekly transit shows and I really enjoy that. I enjoy the ritual of that, but the week is a total man-made construct. It feels like it should be lunar. It's not. It is a man-made construct. So I think the month is the perfect size of how closely I like to look at my own astrology and think about my own life. I think, oh, March is going to be messy. April's going to be stark. May's going to be passive aggressive. I have these things in my head where I just know when I arrive, like that's how it's going to be.
And June's going to be beautiful. I can't wait for
June's
June.
Gonna be, she's all that glow up montage, my birthday.
Exactly. It's the coming out party, the cotillion.
Oh, I know. I'm ready.
It is kind of overwhelming though, looking at say an entire year or even an entire season, right? So I agree with you. There's a way that month by month you can go into enough detail where it's not overwhelming and you get a good picture.
Yeah. So let's think a little bit. I mean, we've checked in and visited because I miss you guys and this is our first time doing this. But like, I am curious how February has played out in terms of what you expected or what, we talked about. Whitney and I, we did an overview for my channel. What do you think? How has February been treating you guys?
In the February overview, I said that the transit I was most looking forward to was the eclipse in Aquarius. And that sounds a little crazy and a little wild, right? Like, why would your favorite transit be an eclipse? And I feel like that's actually really hit in my life, where I think one of the beautiful things about the astrology of February is that even though we have this majorly disruptive energy in the Aquarius eclipse, of course, in the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries, yes, but with the planets in Pisces interacting with the North Node and trining with Jupiter, there is this, like you say, Alexandra, the safety net of support, right? The Jupiter net that's ready to catch us. And I think that I, for one, have really been feeling that. Now, does that mean that everything has been like roses and rainbows? Absolutely not. My eclipse story involves my car breaking down for the third time in 2 months. You know what I mean? It's in the shop right now. That shit sucks, you know?
Yeah.
I can see where the Virgo eclipse is heading too, because that's my South Node second house moon, right? I'm like, oh, we're paying through the nose. Here we go, right? But the beautiful thing about astrology is we can understand and have this sort of sense that these experiences might be hard. They might come upon us in ways we don't expect, but being ready for that helps us move through with more grace.
It's so interesting. Like, I think that knowing is so important to it, because it sets you up for the general theme, and then when it manifests specifically, you're like, oh, okay, now I know how to plug that in, and now I see what's happening. Like today, like this month has been like super triggering for me. Like all old stuff being like brought up to the surface, and like, you know, I think with Aquarius being so highlighted, and you know, maybe Saturn and Neptune too, it's forced me out of my comfort zone to like ask for help and support, which is not my wheelhouse. Where like I'm used to just like, I will just do this by myself. I've got this. I've all got, and I was just like, even just, you know, recently I just had to come in and be like, I need a hug. Like I, you know, like just saying like something like that, like, because that communal aspect of Aquarius has been so lit up for me as a Leo rising in particular. It's just like, I will do it. I will take care of it. I will be there, right? Being like, actually, I'm so triggered about certain things right now that I need support. And like when you don't reach out for it with these types of things, that's when you start getting even more agitated and the problems start piling up. And I think that that's something that Aquarius has been teaching me over this month is, you know, the importance of community, of relationship, of people who you can rely on to be there even when you're not at your best. And so it's been humbling in a lot of ways, which is interesting with Aries coming in too, because like I was thinking like this Aries, I'm like, you know, I'm now I'm a boss bitch and I'm taking control of everything. But it's just like, oh, actually, that's what you always try to do. And we're going to flip it around, and now you're going to be super uncomfortable because you're going to have to show your not good side and also realize you can be supported during that. So it's like, it's been very internal for me, but like surprising in the way it's shown up, but also makes sense when I look at the astrology.
Totally. Oh my gosh. See, I think, Alex, we were just talking before we started recording about how we hate when people astrologize us when they're talking, but I'm about to.
You can do it. It's fine.
Because Whitney was talking about it, and I know you probably didn't see it, but I created it for one of my weekly videos, and then for my community, I did horoscopes that were like, here's your hidden allies. And for the Leo rising, it's like big lessons around self-sabotage and isolation with Jupiter in Cancer. And then with Venus exalted in Pisces, it's like asking for help and relying on other people for the Leo rising. And that's been my experience too, because it's happening in my social houses. And like, you guys, this eclipse is in my second house. So, you know, I'm kind of was thinking about it too. I got this note. I'm not going to put this person's phone number on blast, but this was under my windshield. And it's literally like, hey, I watched someone back up into your car pretty badly, and they were trying to drive away without leaving their info. So I took a video of their car. Let me know if you want it. The hidden allies in the social houses.
Talk about hidden allies. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Same thing. I had like a pretty big legal situation going on this week. Eclipse in my second and eighth houses, and I have a stellium there. And my lawyer was like, you know what? You don't have to. She was just like, we'll just call it. You know, I thought I was halfway through paying her. She was like, you're good. I was like, come again? So it's like those hidden allies have really been loud. But if you're not looking for them, you wouldn't see them. The story wouldn't, it would be my car got hit. The story would be I had this big legal thing. But if you know where to look, I think February has had some gifts for us.
Absolutely. That is my look on life all the time, right? Like we have to, but I'm an 8th house Venus, right? Conjunct
I think we
North
all
Node,
three have an optimistic core to us that prevails.
You have
And it
to
can
seek
do.
the good.
Can do. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I did. We were literally just talking about, Alex was like, I don't like sharing my chart because I don't like when people astrologize me. But then he shared his chart. Now all I'm doing is astrologizing you. We got to get out of here. We got to get to the transits. I'm like, of course you would think
people.
that. You have a freaking. I'm not going to say it. I'm like, of course you would think that.
Right.
You have Chiron. You have Chiron trining your vertex. Of course you would think that.
I have Venus septicontopostyling my ascendant.
Wait. Septipostyling is the best thing I've ever heard. The sacred shape of 7 pastas. That's pretty good.
Like,
The septiposting.
Oh my god, that is so good.
So duh. Of course that's why I'm like this. Come on.
Wow. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at these transits, you guys. I am going to pull up Astrotheoros. As you guys know, Astrotheoros is the proud sponsor of this month ahead overview. And I just adore Astrotheoros. It's so cool. If you are my client or a student of mine or a friend of mine, you know that I use Astrotheoros. And my favorite part about it is that everything translates just so seamlessly from phone to iPad to... God, my computer screen cracked last year and I was like literally using my mom's 8-year-old iPad to be looking at charts sometimes. It's just really nice to have this software. And of course, it's really good at showing us our little month ahead overview and looking at all of the gorgeous transits we're going to look at here today. You can always get a month off or get a little discount on an annual subscription of Astrotheoros if you use my code. It's the number 9 lives. Check it out and use it for a month. Most people who use it for a month end up using it in the long term. Because it rocks. But if you're looking for an astrology software that was designed in this millennia and doesn't cost $600 and you just want to animate your chart with some transits, or maybe you want to like poke around with solar returns, zodiacal releasing, Astrotheoros is your girl. And we're going to use it here today. I think the first thing we need to talk about here today is Mars coming into Pisces. And pretty much that day, it's like Mars comes in on the 2nd and the next day on the 3rd, we have that lunar eclipse at 12 Virgo. What are you guys thinking about this eclipse? Have we talked it to death? Are we tired? I feel like everybody's been talking about the Aquarius eclipse and not very many people actually have been talking about this Virgo eclipse with the same seriousness.
And isn't that funny? Because it falls in the next calendar month. And so I think people have been orienting their content calendars around.
They've been Februarying. Yeah.
Exactly. We've been Februarying. So I'm excited to talk about this Virgo eclipse because, the Aquarius stuff, super big, obviously, with the transition of eclipses on the Leo-Aquarius axis. But this Virgo eclipse, we know the storyline that these eclipses have been working, right? And so there is, when we're looking at this eclipse here on March 3rd, I'm actually wondering, with this South Node eclipse again, what has been happening in our Virgo houses since last September, right? Eclipse season was really loud in fall 2025. In fact, we were talking about the fact that it even started early, right? With the new moon in Virgo squaring Uranus. And so you might want to look back into your notes, into your journals, right? And kind of see what themes were coming up then. And I mean, obviously we know here that Mercury is retrograde. Mercury is retrograde and its detriment in fall, ruling this eclipse. On the surface, that doesn't sound good. You know what I mean? That sounds hard. That sounds like part of the journey of this eclipse is moving backward. But look at that trine slash sextile we have here to Jupiter in Cancer. Again, that symbol of support, right? From the water signs. I mean, when we look at that, it's like we have to understand that growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like, there's something about this Virgo eclipse that feels to me like maybe we don't have everything we need all at once to get the job done, whatever it is, that symbolic job that's in our heads, right? It's like, you know, if we're on the path of the hero's journey, like this is Mercury retrograde in Pisces, it's like we lose the map totally. Or I don't know, we eat a funny mushroom and the map like transforms in front of our eyes, right? But like there's this like theme then that carries through from the Aquarius eclipse of this like perspective shift, the mind opening in new ways, and sort of adjusting our expectations, right? Virgos really hold these expectations highly in our lives, and I think this is a time of when we adjust our expectations with a new perspective and move forward with sort of this is so like just basic Virgo, but like releasing the perfectionism, releasing those expectations that maybe were holding us back in the first place.
Yeah, there's the south node next to the moon here. Oh, the south node to me is always like the jettison tube, right? It's like something that's being shot out or released. And this to me, especially the end of a long cycle of maybe living up to everybody else's expectations, but not being faithful to yourself. It could be a long cycle of, like you said, Whitney, like just being perfectionistic, overly critical too, like just having a sense of being like overly critical about something or overly judgmental. It's usually about yourself, and especially when the moon is involved, that tends to be about like your own inner emotional world, or maybe things that have come from your family or come from your ancestry that are being released here. And the South Node has a great opportunity because this is usually not just about stuff that came about last week. This is about stuff that has been going on maybe for your entire lifetime, or at least for the last 20 years. There's a real possibility here of releasing, letting go permanently of a lot of that stuff. And I think that one of the things that happens with Virgo is the plot twist with Virgo is that they realize at some point it is impossible to live up to everybody's expectations. You just literally can't, because the minute you live up to somebody's expectations, you've disappointed someone else, it's just impossible. And when you stop wanting to play that game of whack-a-mole, or you just get exhausted from it, then you're like, fuck it. I'm just going to be myself, and you'll all have to just enjoy that. And you begin to pick the things that you want to do, as opposed to it picking you and you saying, oh, thank you so much, I'll do this. So it's like, I think there's a lot of possibility of agency that comes from this eclipse, not maybe comfortable, but a lot of agency that can come from it. Because the moon is supporting Mercury by being in Mercury's sign, even though Mercury is in all its things right now.
I think that's so interesting to imagine a Virgo inventing the concept of authenticity.
Yeah.
Like through a lifetime of struggling against it. And then it's like, what if I just was myself? Like an Aries is born there. Some people have to arrive there through a lifetime of Saturnian struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's so possible right now. I think that's one of the coolest ways that Saturn and Aries is already functioning, is this return to and an appeal to and a sort of a radical, rebellious sense of authenticity in a world of AI, plastic surgery, perfectionism, slop business. I'm really struck by the fact that I think that this eclipse in Virgo and then the eclipse in the fall in Pisces, this Virgo eclipse is a Pisces eclipse, and that Pisces eclipse is a Virgo eclipse. Like, they are so interchangeable, because if we look at this Virgo eclipse, just visually look at this chart, this is about Pisces. And the same happens in fall. We have a lunar eclipse in Pisces at 4 degrees. it's opposite a Mercury cazimi at 4 degrees Virgo. So they're both very much about each other. And I want to list the other Pisces eclipse dates for you guys. I just pulled those while we were talking. The first one was September 18th, 2024. That was at 25 Pisces. We have September 7th, 2025. That was at 15 Pisces. And then we are going to have the final one this August 28th at 4 degrees Pisces. Those are really significant. The Virgo dates are significant too. But for me, this just feels all about Pisces. I don't know how else to say it. I think there's one group of people, I'll come back to them, for whom this is about with Virgo stuff. This is the first time in many, many years, I think decades, since that Pisces has been free of outer planets because of Neptune, Saturn, even Uranus was there at some point. And so this Mercury retrograde feels so helpful, so supportive. It's like dredging up. It's like a interior designer. It's like the fabulous gay fairy godfather scene where like your gay uncle comes over and he's like, what if you put these throw pillows here and let's do this and let's open these curtains. What are we doing? And it's like dusting. It's like I'm also thinking of Stanley Tucci for some reason coming over, cooking you something weird. And you're like, oh my gosh, like life is actually magical. I forgot.
Or Stanley Tucci and the Devil Wears Prada and combine it all together.
Yes, just in time for Devil Wears Prada too. Mm-hmm. It just feels really helpful and generative and poetic and curious and thoughtful. And I think Alex, you mentioned the South Node with the moon. It feels like the North Node with the sun is really optimistic and hopeful. I'm curious about what's up with that Mars. I think it's going to depend greatly on your personal relationship with Mars. So that's something you should think about. If you have a constructive or even friendly relationship with Mars, I think this plays out a little differently. There might be something sharp, but that area of Pisces is so strong with exalted Venus that I don't think it's anything to necessarily worry about. I will say those people I mentioned, people born between 1965 and 66, there was a Pluto-Uranus conjunction, a series of 3 that happened right around this degree of Virgo, 16, 17 Virgo. I have a lot of clients who are born in that time range. I just feel like there might be some generational thing that's going on at this time. Maybe a reckoning around some trauma you experienced or some things that you've been told to be silent about in your life that have been buried, that are going to kind of come up in this messy way that Alex and Whitney are describing, is like maybe you've been quiet for too long. Maybe the messy work of like telling your kids what, or your therapist, or acknowledging in your journal what some of the things you've been through in your life, that might be a little bit of a theme this month. So that was just a big brain dump. But what are our closing thoughts on this eclipse?
Yeah, the closing thoughts on this eclipse, I think it's funny because as you were, imagining the gay fairy godmother uncle, fairy godfather uncle, fairy godperson uncle, beautifying the room.
The gay fairy god, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I'm looking at like Mercury in this place. He's like saging the room, right? Clearing all of the yuck out of there. Then you bring the Palo Santo in, right? Because Venus is here, and uplift the energy. I think everything you said about how focused this is in Pisces is actually really a benefit for us here, right? It takes some of the emphasis off, some of those possible icky Virgo feelings that can arise. And I guess from a closing perspective, I think about that authenticity of Virgo and the concept of craft, the concept of Virgo as the craftsperson, right? You've got Pisces, which is really so much the artist, right? Seeking that transcendental beauty, right? Well, Virgo is what happens when you bring it back down to earth in that everyday craft. And listen, like, craft is not supposed to be perfect. Craft is a practice, And that's what we're moving through here, is the practice of integrating all of this change.
Oh my God, I love this so much, you guys. I feel like, first of all, I want to say, as a gay uncle, I'm just so happy we're getting our due here. I'm just saying, because we're...
You earned it!
Because we really... No, like, we show up for our niece, and, like, it's like, oh, the gays are here, let's have fun. Like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be super fun. So thank you. I appreciate it, because we're just going to clean up Pisces for you. But I think also... And also, I'm super excited because that's my 8th house. I'm like, clean it up. I am done. Clean this shit up. I'm all set. I'm all set. But, you know, the other thing that I think comes up with Virgo, too, is... So Virgo often gets stereotyped as the sort of buttoned up, nerdy perfectionist, right? Like, I've just got to get everything right, the neurotic kind of, that sort of image. And one of the things that can happen with Virgo a lot of times is the pressure builds on that so much, there's a secret desire to be, like, really bad, right? Like, underneath it is the rebellious kid who never just got to be a bad kid. I can't tell you how many Virgo clients I have had who said, I just once wanted to be the bad kid in high school.
Yeah.
I just once wanted to do something stupid. I just once wanted, but they can't because they see the consequences coming of it. And there's often like a preemptive guilt or preemptive self-judgment that comes in. And I'm wondering about this eclipse too, wrapping up a story about the need to always be so good. Like, I've really been thinking about Mary Oliver's poem, Wild Geese, which is one of my favorite poems of all time. It starts with, you do not have to be good. In the sense of, like, you are a precious jewel of divinity, just like everybody else. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to work for it. And I'm just wondering about things like that, because I think that there's also a very sensual and erotic side to Virgo that wants to be released from that sense of having to be so good. And, like, that doesn't always mean sexual, but it means, like, there's a sense where I want to be able to just flow with my own desire and flow with what I want to do. And sometimes Virgos feel that is bad because it's out of control. It doesn't have, like, I can't, like, go back and change something if someone's offended, or I can't go back and fix the guilt. So I think it's a really interesting, it could be very freeing in a lot of ways, maybe is my larger
Totally. Yeah, I have a soapbox for another time about the Real Housewives series and how women of that first generation of that series were latchkey, ignored, born to the silent generation, like never had ever had any spotlight as individual humans in their families growing up socially. So then we see the Real Housewives, because it's so interesting to me. I'm like, how can you want attention in the way that these women want attention? As a millennial, I just cannot relate to them. I just don't understand it. And that's, I think, why we watch with such fascination when people act that way, particularly women. And that's something else. But those women were born around that time of the Pluto-Uranus conjunction. So I just think of the things that they had inside them. And it was like, finally, someone's fucking asking me how I feel, paying attention to me and filming me and witnessing me and cares. Like, it's a really interesting cultural phenomenon. And Alex, I like that you tied that in. I think that we don't think enough about the iconography of Virgo as the Virgin. And being a virgin doesn't mean that you don't experience sexual desire. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of that, but it's wrapped up. The problematic nature of it is wrapped up in the iconography of Virgo. It's like I know that if I, you know, in this metaphor, in this archetype, if I have sex even once, I am no longer a virgin. That's the rule. That's the Virgo rule in my brain. It's like control, and we talk about discernment and all of this, but it's like it's also a thing that is irrevocable. It's an irrevocable choice. But not everything in your life, Virgos, is an irrevocable choice, right? It's the problem is that a lot of things get elevated to, if I do it just once, then it becomes part of my identity. So there's discernment that Virgos have the ability to do. Maybe it needs to be applied in that way. It's like figuring out really if this is a life or death or an irrevocable issue.
And just quickly on that, Alexandra, too, is that what we think of as virgin today is a co-opted patriarchal view of the word virgin. In the ancient world, virgin just meant you weren't married.
Right.
That's all, whether it was a woman or a man. It wasn't about, you know, whether you had sex or had sex or not. So there's there's also about a sense of agency and independence that comes with the more ancient meaning of the word, of like, I choose how I engage with my life. I choose where I want to go. I flow with the current of that. And that can be really liberating for Virgos. And if they get to that sort of crisis point where the whack-a-mole is too much, often that's the result through a transformative process. They flow with themselves much easier and are faithful to themselves.
Yes, and I love that because we think of Leo as the sign of sovereignty. I think what we're talking about here is that concept as well, applied in less of a fire yang mode and more of an earth feminine mode. And I think that's really interesting because what we're seeing here, as we're going to get into the rest of March, obviously, in a hot second, is that with Venus entering Aries, there is this really strong component of those sort of divine feminine energies and the sovereignty associated with owning that. So sorry, I know we're supposed to move on, but
no, we're fine. This is why we're all here, you guys. I was kind of like thinking, Alex and Whitney, as you guys are talking about, in high school, I was close friends with a young girl whose parents were very, very conservative, traditional Muslims. And she had kind of fallen in teenage love with somebody and wanted to be physical with them. And as a person, you know, like a white person from California, I was like, aren't you going to like get in big trouble? And she was like, oh no, there's this thing where like, I'm just his, like, there's like a ceremony we can do. And I'm just like his temporary wife for like 3 weeks. And then we just do that. I was like, excuse me? Like, that's the kind of like ancient virgin we're talking about. It's so interesting to apply our modern thinking. And there's some very important deconstruction that we have to do in revisiting of like source material and context, and also understanding that these are archetypes and metaphors and we're not necessarily literally checking in on the state of your hymen, guys. We're just saying metaphorically, archetypally, check in with your, you know, relationship to purity. So it's a good note to move on to. On the 4th and 5th of March, I think this is kind of wrapped in what we were talking about, but we have the sun actually forming that proper trine to Jupiter, and we have Venus forming a sextile to Uranus. So that's right here. The sun will actually trine Jupiter. Venus is sextiling Uranus. I think we brought in a lot of this symbolism to what we were just talking about the lunar eclipse, because I just think that this lunar eclipse is so much more positive and constructive than what's been going on in February, which felt very stark and choppy and black and white. I showed the painting Guernica on my channel, and Alex texted me and was like, yeah, you know, because it's just so choppy and stark. And I think a lot of the themes of March feel a lot more generative, supportive to life, supportive generally, maybe no clearer than things feel at other points of the year, maybe a little messy, but more life supporting. Don't we agree?
Yes, we totally agree. And this sun trine Jupiter, it feels like in the midst of this, you know, eclipse storyline, or closing out this eclipse season itself, is like, this is the good omen dropped in our path that we needed, right? This sign of hope and light and encouragement, right? I think this feels really good and helps sort of bolster what's going on here. And you know, the sun moving through this trine to Jupiter, Venus sextiling Uranus, we have seen these themes repeated absolutely over the last month of February, while, you know, Mercury and Venus were moving through those trines to Jupiter. Each planet entering Pisces was moving through the squares to Uranus. So again, I really see this as connected and a continuation of that storyline. I've been talking a lot about the importance of those water trines, that the grand water trines that we all experienced in the fall. And this is part of where some of the ideas and the ideals that came out of that deep space of reflection, contemplation, creativity are becoming actualized, right? Like this is kind of a bridge month. Nothing is quite firm here. We are moving between timelines. There's a shift taking place, but this trine especially feels like there is forward momentum and actualization occurring.
It's a really Sun Jupiter contacts like this are very, very fortunate. I think you just look at it on a textbook level, and I think also there's a feeling here with water and the sun in a water sign, Jupiter in a water sign. Jupiter is ruling the sun during this trine.
Yeah.
This is a nice trine, like textbook astrology. This is a lovely trine. And Jupiter's just also about to turn direct, so Jupiter is very, very strong in the sky. Jupiter's at its station point, so that's a very amplified Jupiter. So I think a lot of what you were saying, Whitney, I completely agree with this idea of generativeness. Things can grow again. Things can dream. For with Pisces being so involved, dreams can grow again. I don't know. I feel like with all of the air and earth we've been going through since the beginning of the year, that ability to really get back into your imagination and dream and actualize and feel like, oh, these seeds now have the nutrients necessary to grow. That's been hard to come by since January and February. And I think now we're moving into a point like you can't get more like dreams can expand than this type of aspect. There's fertile in a lot of ways. And I think also having a sense of whatever got stirred up by those grand water trines, because they were all being activated from Scorpio, which is very existential and dredging up a lot of usually very deep and difficult stuff. This is something that begins to tie that together on even a more unconscious emotional level in a way that could feel really nice. I am all about this, especially after
Totally.
the last 6 weeks. I am all about it. Bring it on.
Totally. And Alex, what you just said, I'm going to take one step further, because you said, like, with all the air and earth stuff that's been going on, but really a lot of just air stuff, just so dry, so choppy, so stark. And some of the fire, because like Saturn ruling all that Aquarius stuff from Aries. Pisces is the airiest water sign. It is the sign of like water as vapor. So I just feel like this is the most supportive that it could be, because Jupiter is so different from day chart to night chart people. I have found, I just put out a video on my channel. If you're like, what the heck is a day chart or a night chart? First of all, you probably know intuitively if Jupiter is lucky magnetism or big lessons. Night chart, big lessons. Day chart, lucky magnetism. But I just feel like Jupiter in Cancer has been more about the big lessons than I think people expected. So I love that this is all happening in Pisces, and we have exalted Venus there. The North Node, I agree with you guys completely. I just adore this. I think that it stays good even when Venus moves into Aries, but it's going to feel very, very different because Venus will be conjoining Saturn and Neptune the day of this Mercury cazimi. So we'll have a Mercury cazimi at 16 degrees. Mercury is retrograde. And right at this moment, I mean, literally Venus is between Neptune and Saturn. It's still good. Don't get me wrong. It's still good. It's different. The moon's going to be in Scorpio at that point. I still think there's like some good things to be had from this contact. Probably more so information. I feel like this is even when the Pisces floating moment is like, wait a minute, what's that sound? You're like floating, floating, floating. And then you're like, oh shit, it's my alarm clock, You're like, oh, it's time to wake up. Like this might be a little bit of one of those. And, good thing you didn't miss your alarm, but it's just a little different here. What do you guys think? Mercury cazimi.
Dude, waking up from a dream does not feel good. Like, oh, you lose all of those juicy experiences and insights so quickly that it's jarring, right? And I think we get that. It's a perfect metaphor for what we have here, right? Because Venus moving into Aries, she is fierce here. There is something jarring to it. The moon in Scorpio too, like, oof. we've felt better about things, that's for sure. But it's like, it's funny because why do I keep talking about drugs? But if you ate that funny mushroom, right, and under the Virgo eclipse and had a shift in perspective, this is like when you start to come out of the trip, right? And you're putting those puzzle pieces together. And you're right about the like the informational quality here, but I wonder, with Venus conjoining Saturn and Neptune, if this isn't about like grabbing the information, claiming the information that we want, right? Venus is in detriment in Aries, but I think I actually kind of like Venus in Aries for her fierceness.
She's like scrappy.
And yes, exactly. Because like in this mode, sure, and she's an evening star, so there is still that I say exalted, but not in the dignity scheme sort of way, that like exalted feminine quality, but she is functioning under more masculine or yang beliefs, right? Or actions rather than the feminine, right? That's like the grabbing instead of attracting that we usually know of Venus. And so that's kind of what is happening, right? We wake up out of that dream and we write the notes on the page right away, and it helps the breakthrough moment happen.
Yeah, Venus in Aries is a badass bitch. She is out for it. And I love it. I love it because, I think one of the things that drives me just out of my mind is when we sugar and spice Venus, right? She's about things that are pleasing and blah, blah, and she can be, but she's also powerful. And in the mystery schools, Venus was actually the first separation of me and you. So it's like about desire, and you're over here and I'm over here, and like, how do I get to you, or how do I get to something? So there's an acquisitional quality to Venus that's very powerful. And I think that in the middle of all of this water that's coming up, and I love that you put up the trine, Alexandra, that the moon is making to the cazimi and to Jupiter. There's a feeling where Venus hitting Saturn particularly, it may feel a little bit like, okay, now I've got to buckle down and go get something or bring something to me that I need. But there's a quality of desire to it that with all the water in the sky can feel a little bit like I'm getting lost in my soup of feelings and fog of that. Venus, I think, in this particular, now she's past Neptune, now she's hitting Saturn, is like, but I just got to go get shit done. Mm-hmm. And it's and I can't stay lodged in my imaginative space of feelings. I have to actually make this happen. And so I'm really excited for this. I think it could bring up some stuff around the grand water trines that happen in the fall, possibly. But I think it's a very different flavor of it.
For sure. I mean, first of all, it's only a 2-day period, but that is just for people who are thinking about this. This is why we call the moon the weaver. The moon is coming into Scorpio saying, don't forget about the grand water trines, and then running away, just like, by the way, don't forget about this. Yeah. I think the grand water trines are interesting to come up again. I don't think those felt the way that most people thought they were going to feel. They were very deep, and for some people got quite dark as well. Not to say that this will be deep or dark. This is a moon transit and not a 6-week period of, planetary movements. I do think there's an interesting Mars piece to all of this that we should just acknowledge, which is that Mars is ruling all of what's happening in Aries from Pisces, where Mars has kind of a neutral relationship, but is in a sign-based trine to the ruler, Jupiter exalted in Cancer. So it feels like Mars is more kindly positioned here and has some resources and has some assets to soften it, which is important because it's ruling that stuff happening in Aries, even from aversion, and it's also ruling the moon. So I think Mars is in a good spot. And Alex, to your point about the I'm thinking of stuff passing Saturn and Aries as getting marching orders from Saturn and Aries. So I'm like, Venus is getting her marching orders with a sextile to Pluto as well. So it's like serving this long-term transformation, and it's maybe even smoothing that over a little bit by letting us think more scrappy and more resourcefully about what's going on there. Pretty much right around this time on the 10th, we have Jupiter stationing direct. And I think we can tie that piece of the conversation in with what happens right after, which is a Mars Mercury conjunction. I think it's pretty interesting because when Jupiter stations direct, we have a moon in Sagittarius. So it feels like the moon is really collaborating with us this month and really, really doing her best to make things as soft and smooth as they can be. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so we're talking about in just these few days, right? Mars Mercury conjunction. Never mind, that's right after the fact that Mercury hit the trine to Jupiter again, right? In retrograde motion, so the second of 3. And it feels like there is a resource that we are digging out here. I think that this could go, very broadly as a strategic move, a strategic resource. I also think that this could be like commerce driven or very like actual physical resource driven. It's almost as if with Jupiter turning direct here, that coming out of this eclipse season, like these ideas, resources have been like lurking under the surface, and now we get to uncover them. I think there's also something like very much energetic happening here, and that is that this Mercury Mars conjunction that is such an important piece of this Mercury Mars cycle we've been experiencing since late 2025, along with those water trines, and we'll continue. When's the last one off the top of your head, Alexandra? Is it April?
It's in April.
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, and I think this the fourth of 5.
This is the 4th of 5, and they happen. Whitney and I did a deep dive on my channel. You can find the video. It started in Scorpio, and then it went to Sagittarius, Capricorn, skipped Aquarius for the eclipse, now Pisces, then Aries in April.
Can we just all take one brief moment and thank Alexandra for her Gemini, very detail-oriented brain and memory? I don't know how you do it, girl. It is like...
Sometimes I'm in my Gemini and I'm detached, and sometimes I'm in my Cancer moon and I'm like keeping score. So let's hope that this is a Gemini one. I just hope you're in the Gemini.
Yes. We'll be in the Gemini. But basically, to sort of bring that point home is that I think there's like, I get that feeling like I hear my dad in my ear saying like, give it gas, Whitney. Like this is where there's like a drive or a power that we find under the depths, right? And it can, like, I don't know if, right, here's Venus in Aries. I don't know if that's going to be pretty Pisces, beautiful, watery goodness. I think that there is a way that we channel some rage through this, and that this is part of the process of how we find that motivation to continue and put one foot in front of the other.
I'm so glad you brought up rage, Whitney, because I wasn't thinking that at first, but now that makes a lot of sense, and it's such an important part of the healing process, right? Which is this is very healing.
Yeah.
You know, Mars, I think it's always really important to remember that Mars, to the ancients, also represented medicine, and the sciences, right, and the sort of the surgeon's knife. So, And Jupiter in Cancer, God knows that is like, I just want to wrap you up in a hug and give you some cocoa and, you know, help you.
Put a
And let's just all
Band-Aid.
feel, and put a Band-Aid and let's feel good. But before we can feel good, you know, I think when I'm doing energy work with people, when we're moving through something, oftentimes, especially when we do astrology and we're kind of into spiritual arts, we'll want to skip right to the forgiveness, or we'll want to skip right to the letting it go, or skip right to, oh, it's a big deal. We forget, like, you know, you can't, the rage is not going away. It's like the natural impulse when something happens is to say no, and when that gets stifled back, that's one way rage can form, and then it's not released. And I think that this is that ability to channel out the repression. We talked about this in different ways over the course of this conversation this month, and I'm seeing it form up as a theme. Repression, or things that have been held down or aren't appropriate or nice or okay, come flying out. And it's important, and especially, I think, it easier with a aspect like this to do that in ways that are constructive, right? You have Jupiter ruling and a beautiful trine to these planets. I think it's a way we can do this in a way that's constructive, but in a way that doesn't make us keep having to bite our tongue, or having to hold things in, or skip over something to something, like being told, like, well, you should just let that go. Well, yeah, well, I'm fucking pissed. You know, first I'm pissed, and then I'll let it go. You know, like, that's a necessary progression in how you transmute the whole energetic structure. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I'm so glad you brought that up, Whitney. I never didn't see that, and it's so true.
Totally. Yeah, that's something I'm personally feel like is a personal lesson that I'm personally working through. It's like, I spent a lot of my youth as a co-malefic ruled person, Cap rising, and Mars was like my triplicity ruler for that period of my life. Like, I was so hatefully angry that at some point I just made a decision. I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to cauterize this. Anger doesn't serve me. And now it's actually a brutal process to try to re-excavate and get some of it back. I'm like, no, I actually need to be able to experience some anger, even for one day. If somebody wrongs me or does something, you know, I need to remember those things. So that's like a really hard part of all of this. I'm also really interested in and thinking about the fact that a lot of times we can get swept up in these big picture visions that we have, manifesting, or I really want this. It's like, I want to live in a mansion, but right now I live in a hovel. Don't forget that, you know, moving to an apartment is an appropriate mid-step. There's a mid-step right, in a lot of these things. You don't have to sacrifice your future big picture vision. You're not corrupting anything by accepting one step up. I want a more professional recording environment. Sure, yes. And also, you can accept the, you know, $60 microphone that somebody is giving you right now as being slightly better than what you have. That, like, Venus is really scrappy, and she's in a square to Jupiter. So it feels like those scrappy resources, those one-step wins. Venus in that sextile to Pluto. Pluto just wants us to take one step in front of the other. It's in a square to Jupiter. So it's like, yes, there is big picture vision, and we're still keeping track of that. But let me take this win right now. Let me move forward in this one way. And if it's messy, that's okay. We're going to clean it up later. And I've still made progress. Like, I feel like that's another little hidden thing that's going on here in this mid-month transit period. I think this is a good time to talk a little bit about, so we talked about this Venus-Jupiter square, and the sun is, you know, moving into this 28-degree period. This only, to me, further proves my thesis, Your Honor, that these Pisces Virgo lunations are Pisces Virgo lunations. So this new moon in Pisces is happening at 28 degrees of Pisces. I think you guys all remember the 28 Virgo eclipse that happened September 21st, 2025. Depending on how you calculate the nodes, it might have been at 29, the eclipse piece of it. But these things are tied together. The Pisces Virgo stuff of this eclipse series is Pisces Virgo stuff. You cannot unentangle them, in my opinion. And I think this kind of underscores that. It's also interesting to me that this new moon on March 18th is technically conjunct Saturn Neptune. It's contra Antitia. So it's technically conjunct, but it's also technically a secret opposition. This is a really interesting new moon for me. What do you guys have thoughts or opinions about this new moon happening?
Okay, yes. The contra antitia that is also conjunct. I'm thinking about this. Doesn't it make so much sense symbolically that this conjunction slash contra antitia happens on the point where we close out the zodiac and we start fresh in the spring? Because there is this regenerative quality that we have to the solstice, to springtime, right? And it is about everything that has been growing dormant and is now ready to spring forth. It's like literal resurrection, right? Dead things coming back to life. And that feels so illustrative of this particular cusp, right? As we move from Pisces to Aries. I think that this is also just so especially tied, right? We have this lunation, this new moon in the late degrees of the sign. We've been in this late degree new moon cycle since that Virgo eclipse you talked about, right, in September. And there's something that speaks to the difficulty of moving forward with new plans when great change is involved. And I think that's what we're seeing with these late degree new moons. Now, it's also really interesting to me that on this same day, Venus is also squaring Jupiter. We talked about this, as forming when we talked about the last group, right? But it exacts on this same day.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about that, right? As this, there is, in starting new things, sometimes we just want it so bad. I'm guilty of this, right? It's like moving from the hovel to the mansion, right? I want that mansion so bad, right? And there's like a gut ache that can be associated with that I think is that I think we're really seeing with that Venus Jupiter square. But, this is the beginning of a new Pisces journey that is tied to this eclipse cycle. And you know what it reminds me of? So this image popped into my mind last fall when we were going through specifically those Virgo eclipses. And I actually had to, sorry if I'm going to piss people off, talk to ChatGPT about what the thing was called that I was looking at in my head, okay? It is called the Flammarion engraving. And this is something that Adam in Nightlight uses and teaches to illustrate. But basically, it's this old engraving that has been recolorized and presented, as this like beautiful psychedelic scene. But it's basically like this robed traveler who is crawling to the edge of the world and like pokes his head through the edge of the world, the firmament, right, into the heavens to see all of the potential that surrounds us. And that image is really, really strongly resonating to me here with that conjunction that is contra antitia on this axis of the spring equinox. And it just feels like reconciling an old road with a new road. Wow, that was a lot of talk about word vomit.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, so if you think of like if the sun and moon were actually opposing Saturn and Neptune here, there would be a sense of like wanting to shine but feeling isolated, or wanting to shine but feeling like your energy is getting pulled into, getting sucked out before you can get anything going. If you might also feel like there's a sense of your vitality doesn't quite feel like what it's supposed to feel like. There's a sense of kind of blah, or a feeling of just being exhausted. And I think that this speaks to me on that note of like the need for a kind of spiritual rest. I think that it's very, very easy for us to like feel like we have to be, especially when we do this, you guys are into this and listening to astrology and all this the work that we do. I have to be transforming, and I have to be acting, and I have to be journaling and eating my kale, blah, blah, blah. And there's sometimes it's just like you need to just stop. Like you just you can have a day where you don't meditate, where you can just relax and soften and be yourself and just let yourself be renewed. Because I think that, the very end of the zodiac here, there's a sense of, especially in Pisces, of just letting things dissolve. And you don't have to do anything in Pisces to let that happen. You just have to let it happen. As it dissolves, Saturn and Neptune are about to get a real awakening with an exalted sun conjoining them, in just a couple of days. There is a renewal very shortly, right in the future ahead of this. But it might require just like, I need to rest. And I don't have to be, on all the time. I don't have to be the spiritual good boy, good girl, or good person. Being myself is enough, and I can rest in being myself. That's kind of how I'm putting this together.
Yeah, it's a very old Saturn and Neptune. They're about to die. Saturn is weak as fuck over there in Aries. I'm so excited about this time period when the sun moves in. But I wanted to react to Whitney, you saying the Flammarion engraving. I had never seen that image, and I just looked it up, and that is, I'm going to put it on in the recording because that is incredibly relevant for what I think is happening here exactly. When you guys are talking, like I'm doing my little translation brain, and I'm like, oh, you guys don't know what you're saying, but I do. As a person who reads well over 1 million words of romance novels a year, this is an enemies to lovers storyline. I mean, that's exactly what the fuck is happening here. It's like the moment where they're like fighting and they're bickering and they're like, okay, can we just start over? And then it's like, oh yeah, you gave me that little pep talk. Now we can fall in love uncomplicatedly. And that doesn't mean that there isn't this secret opposition, because always as a plot twist in those stories, there's some core miscommunication or there's some core deception that then becomes the plot point, right? Oh, we think they're finally working together. No, there's always some like stupid deception. It's always like, oh, he's secretly the son of a god, or like, oh, secretly she's gonna turn into a vampire later, right? We got to deal with all that shit. But this is that moment of like, okay, can we just start over, because we have these two incoherent parts of us. We're clearly like bickering and have genuine animosity, but we also somehow can't stop staring at each other's biceps over dinner at the fire, that kind of moment. Alex, I felt like you personally attacked me when you said, can you just have a day where you don't do the things? Because yesterday,
I know, I was like, what?
Yesterday I did. I was like, oh, I'm just going to take a half day. I've never taken a day off in my life, but I did take a half day. I got my nails done, and I was like, I'm not going to reply to my message. I'm not going to do this or that. I read a book, and I got my nails done. And I did get 2 text messages from people who were like, you haven't really been replying to my text messages. I want to bring that up because of the Saturn is so weak. Hold the boundary. Whatever it is that you're holding here, don't waffle if you get conflicting evidence from the world right here. And that's part of that engraving that you brought up, Whitney, is like, you're on your journey, you're doing your thing. Don't waffle immediately as soon as somebody emails you and is like, can you get me those things by lunch? No, you can't. And that's okay. Saturn is so weak. You're going to really be tempted to be like, yes, I can just crawl to my desk. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Especially Saturn conjoined Neptune. Boundaries.
Jesus,
yeah.
Right? And the sun is going to help so much. So we have this new moon. I think right after this on the 20th, we have both the sun entering Aries and Mercury stationing direct. And I think it's significant that it happens in that order, but we're going to kind of talk about these things together. So Mercury stations direct. We've got the sun coming in to conjoin Saturn and Neptune over the next few days and to sort of like reset, rebirth these two planets in terms of their synodic cycle. As this is happening, we also have Mars trining Jupiter. So this feels like, you know, the sun is kind of also dignifying Venus at this point, in the sense that the sun is exalted in Aries. And so the sun is now hosting Venus in Aries, whereas we started the month with Venus exalted in Pisces, hosting the sun in Pisces. It feels like it comes back around to something kind of nice for me. It's definitely more of that archetypal masculine. It feels a little sharp edged. It feels stark in the way that February felt. I feel like the start of March feels like that dreaming quality and the poetic quality. And I just keep thinking about the graphic novel Sandman, not the show. I can't vouch for the show.
I've seen the show. It's really good.
Yeah, and I can't certainly vouch for the author, who's disgraced. I just have to say that. But it's like a lot of that graphic novel you're spent being like, wait, what the hell is going on and what exactly are you saying? And then at some point it becomes clear, I'm not going to say what happens, but the terms and the stakes and what's actually going on becomes clear. But by the time it becomes clear, you're like, wait, no, you spoke so poetically about this. I thought that's what was coming, but I held out hope that it wouldn't be that. I was just hoping it would play out differently anyway. I mean, I just saw Wuthering Heights this week as well. And I'm thinking, like, I knew how the movie was going to end. I've read the book, very familiar with the storyline. You still spend the entire movie hoping it doesn't come to that. And I feel like there might be a little bit of that quality here. It's like, fuck, this is exactly how I knew it was going to happen. And I still was hoping that it wouldn't happen. And I think that's kind of echoed at this time of the month with the moon moving into Uranus and Taurus as well. It's like, fuck, I really thought I was going to stubbornly believe my way out of this. But here we are.
And that is the test, isn't it? Like, I feel like so much of what we've been moving through are these sort of like creative tests, right? And this is so weird, but like this sun conjoining Saturn and Neptune, I mean, yes, it is literally the rebirth of these planets, and that's a whole other thing. But I feel like we're getting this layer cake of experiences that are forming this new reality. And, you know, Mercury here stationing direct on the North Node, I think that is going to feel really good and regenerative, especially seeing that happens literally at the spring equinox. It's giving this like understanding and ability to move forward, but at the same time with the sun conjoining Saturn and Neptune, it's like we can't move forward unless some old ideals die, unless we clear the path for that change. And I just want to name something really, I'm glad we have Mercury on the node with this trine to Jupiter happening. I think with Mars there and with the sun conjoining Saturn and Neptune, there may be this feeling of the weight of the world, the weight of this new path that we are birthing. And this is just that practical reminder that feeling, that weight, that intensity, the heaviness, the cutting of it all, the clearing of the old ways is a necessary step. Like we've talked about the healing and cauterization metaphors, right? This is the cauterization so that we can continue to heal properly and move forward. I just want to name that while in the grand scheme of things, I think this is good for the path we're moving toward, that it also just might feel really hard at this time, and that's okay. So if you took Alex's advice and took that pause, then that becomes integral for how we move through this with enough strength to persevere.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like a no bullshit quality about it coming into with the North Node being activated, the Sun in Aries, Venus in Aries, you know, Mars trining Jupiter. I mean, one of the things about the North Node is the North Node is very compelling. It's almost Pluto-like. It pulls you. It's like you need more of this. You need more of this. You need more of this. The Sun moving into Aries is very acquisitional. I want to get this. I want to get this. And Saturn and Neptune are, you know, Saturn is not as strong. Like Alexander, you keep bringing this up, and I think it's so important. This idea of like Saturn is not as boundaried as normal in Aries, and so I think that this could be a time. You're right, Whitney, where it's like it could feel hard, and it could feel hard because there's an impulse to go and do and get, and almost a compulsion to go and do and get, but we're not quite at that stage yet. It's like, and I feel like that's been the sort of running theme for like the whole beginning of this year is like, we're almost there. It always almost feels, and it's like, I think this really is the almost there. Because in April, when everybody moves into Aries, that's a whole different feeling. Oh my God,
we're there, dude. We're there.
I know. I am ready for all that Aries in April.
I'm so ready. But Alex, let me just point out as the month, because this month end period is all these individual transits. That's like a big block. Yeah. So we have, you know, the Sun moving in. It conjoins Neptune. It conjoins Saturn, and then it progresses to the point where it's formally the Sun and Saturn are both sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. So there is, I mean, not just in the symbolism that you're pointing out, but also in the astrology, there is this Plutonian quality to what's happening here. And Saturn will sextile Pluto in Aquarius exactly at the end of this month, which is obviously there's been a great buildup, a teasing of this as Saturn has crossed in and out of Aries, but it actually kind of perfects here. So I feel like that transformational quality is so supported by what's happening here. And it just feels like, I mean, I hesitate to personify the universe, but it's like the energetics, the planets, the archetypes, the DJ, the great cosmic DJ, they're rooting for us. Like everywhere you look, it's like, oh no, this looks like it's going to be tough. Oh, the moon's in Taurus, exalted. Oh, the moon's in Cancer. Oh, the moon's there. Oh, Venus is there. Oh, Venus and Jupiter are talking for us. You know, it just really feels like some of these changes in our life that we have to make are so scary and big or final, or there's been years and years of shame and dread that we've built up, or years and years of enmeshment, or whatever it is that you're working through. Don't leave this time period without just being honest about it, and don't discount the power of just looking honestly at it. That counts as progress. Acknowledging it alone in your brain before you go to bed counts as progress. Writing about it in your journal counts as progress. Telling one person about it counts. The astrology consuming audience is so biased towards, as you said, as all of us were mentioning earlier, but like towards this big sense of meditate every day. I got to do this. I got to eat my spinach. I got to do this. The steps to progress are actually so small and so cellular. And I think there's some of that quality here because of that sextile and what's going on here.
Yeah, you know, it's that sextile with Pluto too it catches my eye because Pluto is at 5 degrees, right? This is the furthest into Aquarius territory Pluto has been, right? And in sextile with this major conjunction, it just feels like you were saying, Alexandra, this sense of progress that there is, that each step is the path toward progress. And the sextile is like, it's showing us these weird new roads we couldn't have even imagined before, right? That we could not have even conceptualized. And I think it it bears repeating, and maybe this is a beautiful bookend, right? To kind of close as we began with our reflections on how February went, that this sense of support, that great cosmic DJ is playing our favorite tune, like you said. There is support here for our new roads, right? Even just like to close out the month, Venus moves into Taurus, and like that feels good too.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I think that will feel like a beautiful relief that we can claim. Some of this goodness for ourselves.
Yeah, claim and go get it. Like we can go get those things, and
Definitely something initiatory.
Yeah, initiatory, and like also, being super honest about it. That's the Pluto element to me here, because Pluto, I think, always demands that we're just real. Like, this has been sitting on the back burner for a long time, and it's starting to boil over, and it's starting to make a mess, and now it's starting even to get dangerous, right? So you have to turn the stove off. You have to move the pot. You have to do something now. That's usually Pluto's kind of feeling, and I think that's, having the sun in Aries, and the sun in Aries right now is the sun in Aries, because the sun is dominating the landscape right now. Mm-hmm. There's a feeling of like, I can go get it. I can do these things. Now that can always boil over into, bombastic chest-beating narcissist about it, but I think that there's a real possibility here of support around acquiring the new whatever it is, path, journey, whatever is happening there. And I think just to close out my thoughts on this, one thing you said, Alexandra, and I really want to point this out, you guys have both talked about this in different ways. The universe rarely gives you a lock without a key. Rarely. Like, it's rare to have astrology that is so stark. And the only example I can really think about is 2020, right? Where there's like very little redeeming
It's so
anything.
rare. It's truly once in a lifetime to see that, I think.
Like, we won't see 2020 as an astrological year ever again in our lifetimes. It's like, that was a year where there was very little redeeming astrology. It was just tough astrology. We all know that from we lived through 2020. This is something where it's like, yeah, there's some hard things, but there's a key. There's some hard things, but there's support. There's some hard things, but there's a way. And so that, in the best tradition of Aries, forges the character of the youthful quality of Aries into the more mature quality of Aries, where you have to undergo some kind of inner or outer trial that actually forms you into a place where you're like, oh, I'm capable of doing this on my own. I can do this myself. I'm a big boy now. I'm a big girl now. Yeah, it's that kind of feeling like, I'm capable now, and I think that really starts to blossom at the end of the month. And I can't wait to talk about April. Oh my god, I'm so excited for April. It will really happen in April.
I know, dude. I know. I'm excited about
Bring it
April
on.
too. Yeah, I think what you're saying, Alex, is really important. Something that I feel like I learned firsthand this January with those Capricorn cazimis was the personal feeling of the synodic reset. That's a theoretical feeling, I think, for most people, because it happened in my first house conjunct. I have a bunch of planets and placements there. It felt very personal, and it developed like my embodied understanding of what the reset astrology feels like in a life rather than in a textbook. And I think that we talk about the synodic cazimis often from the perspective of a little gift. We're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a little gift when this planet conjoins the sun, whether it's information or beauty or whatever. I definitely got a sweet little gift, a sweet little gift from Mars and Venus and the sun in my first house. But we're not going to talk about that on this channel. But I am going to mention that what I didn't expect was the feeling of the quality of the reset, the reboot. It literally felt like there was a software in my body that was rebooting, that was like, have you tried turning it off and turning it on again? I think that's that quality we need to all look at for Saturn in these early degrees of Aries that have been hit in the last few years by the Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, the eclipses that were happening there, then Saturn coming in and out. The sun is doing a hard reboot of Saturn. And what I want to use this for, and what I'm encouraging people and clients and friends to use this for, is redeveloping, interrogating, working with, looking at what it means to be authentically you in an era of perfectionism and auto-generated content. Like, who are you? And we have a very special experience with Saturn coming through Aries, wanting us to develop ourselves, our authentic selves, in a way where we might be willing to say, I don't care what the social norm is. I don't care if this is what other people think is beautiful. I don't care if this is what other people think is real. This is what's happening here to me. And Saturn in Aries, I think, is a little bit willing to flip the middle finger and say, I'm going to go ahead and expose this and be this and do this. So that's part of what I'm really excited about, is this hard reboot with Saturn. Right as Saturn comes into Aries, really, the Sun and Venus both coming through and being like, okay, here you go. Here's the info. I love what happens in April. I don't think it's going to be entirely pleasant, and I am so ready for it and so need that energy. So I feel like this is like kind of a cool hard reset moment for Saturn.
I love it. I totally agree. The hard reset you're talking about that started with the triple cazimi in Capricorn, you know, it is, I mean, saying the same thing in a slightly different way, right? This is the system upgrade. We're coming back online with all these new programs we've got in our head, and I think it's worth mentioning. I just want to mention this metaphor. You know, Alexandra, you and I and Sarah Posh, we got together to plan the astrology of the year ahead. And I love this metaphor that we came up with for this month that is all about threading the needle. And when you look at what the planets are doing here early in the month as they move through, right? Like, Mars is the needle and Mercury is the pattern, right? And we are like creating this tapestry that is a new reality, right? In that creation of new reality, of course, we're going to be tested. Of course, we're going to be tested, but we're given the tools here to move through this moment holding steady, holding to our own visions and where we're going, with the ability to like break through and bust forward into what that new life is calling for us. And then, yeah, this enthusiasm for April, it's there. It all starts falling into place, right? We can hang the tapestry on the wall and start living with it. And, you know, it's going to be wild, but we're not in it alone.
Yeah, that there's something so necessary about February's Aquarius focus, reminding us that we, like I was beginning with what my experience in February, like leaning on community, leaning on support, like you need that. And even when we're going to do our sort of Aries things, you know, me and I'm going to do this, which is great, you know, and showing my capability and my power, we all need somebody at the end of the day to chat with about it, or talk over an idea with, or talk about stuff that's difficult around it, or share around it, because you can't really be capable of something fully on your own. It's just not possible. I think that's the dream of Aries in a lot of ways. Like, I will do it all on my own, but it's just like Pluto is just sitting there in a superior sextile to all these planets, being like, Pluto in Aquarius saying like, yeah, but you can't. Like, you really have to rely also on the other people who are doing the same thing you are right now, who can be there for you and support you. And I think that if we can be aware of and move through the temptation to fall back on older patterns that no longer, I hate using this phrase, no longer serve us, but like, you know, like older things that are not there. If we can really let those things go, we can see them, we can let them go, we move into this capable era of Aries in a much more powerful way. Because I think one of the messages, especially from that Pisces new moon that's coming through mid-month, is you literally cannot take that stuff with you anymore. It will not fit into your old life. Like, you can't, there's nowhere to pack it. There's no way to put it on the car roof. You cannot take it with you. You have to leave it behind. You have to take it out of storage, get rid of it, and move forward fresh. And so I think that's the great opportunity this month offers us in many ways.
Whitney, I'm just still thinking about the engraving. Because once you know what's out there, you can't go back to living life. I mean, there's so many good like movies and ways of thinking about this, and I think a lot of it's tied into Saturn and Neptune, but like The Matrix or Blade Runner 2049, Dune, these same movies I keep trotting out, but like they all explore these beautiful things, these beautiful moments where it's like, now that I know that something more exists, literally my paradigm has shifted. I actually literally cannot go back to living the life that I was before because I know different things now. That feels very clear to me about what's going on this month, but also this year. And I have recommended it before, but Energetic Principles YouTube channel, Gray Crawford and the host of Energetic Principles, I completely forget her name right now, Mel something. They did an incredible year ahead overview that they posted. They only did, I think, 6 months, and it was like 4 hours, and they're going to do more later. But they called this kind of the year of creation, and I just want to return to that because there are moments in the year where our terrain is shifting underfoot and we might leap forward like 10 miles. We're walking one step, but the ground is moving. So it's like, ooh, I've just made a cosmic jump in my ability and in where I'm going. April really feels like one of them. So for me, March is one of the ways I think people can really use this month is receiving the information, taking those moments like Alex mentioned to rest, taking those moments like Whitney mentioned to take stock of our allies and what's helping us and what's going on behind the scenes. Because when we arrive at April, you're going to want to have energy. You're going to want to have a mental acuity. You're going to want to be able to take advantage of those moments where the universe is taking requests and slip in a little request and be like, can I just have this? Because the answer in February, in April, in July could really be yes. Yes, you can have that thing. And you might just kind of be left holding the thing you've been dreaming of that just fell into your lap going, did that really just happen? Have I actually understood? Like one of those moments. If I can sing a Broadway tune. So yeah, what do you guys think? If you have any kind of last minute words of wisdom, or if you could bossily walk into someone's life and tell them how to live it, I just kind of delivered mine. What do you think about March?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And if we're looking forward to these moments where we've used the word claim it multiple times throughout this episode, right? Where that becomes a reality this year. This is where all of the symbolism we've been talking about in February and whatnot are like timelines converging and the quantum leap and the tectonic shifts, right? That is
the portal.
The portal. That is the picture of this year. So here's the test, right? What do you want to take into this next phase? And what do you need to leave behind? And being, in a very contradictory way, I realize, unapologetic about it while being sensitive toward yourself. This is a thing, right? And you are growing into a new being. And now just like put the note on the vision board, put the Post-it on your computer monitor, wherever it is that of what you are seeking. And then the real test becomes when it appears under that Jupiter-Pluto opposition or something, right? That you actually take stock and you express gratitude that, wow, I did it. I made it. As a very fiery individual, I know how it feels to be like wanting this and moving toward that and this goal and always moving toward the next thing. But there's something about the transformational quality of this year that is begging that we recognize too how far we've come in all of this.
Yeah, I think something that's coming right now. Seriously. Something that's just occurring to me now as we're closing out is the healing power of releasing secrets and not holding secrets and not being a secret holder. And the rebirth that can come from that, because, you know, I feel something with this Pisces stuff and the North Node and Mercury retrograde. It's a little bit of like, oh yeah, especially if the moon hits that trine we were looking at, right, to the Mercury cazimi and to Jupiter. There's a sense of like, I'm not going to burden myself with this anymore. I'm going to reveal this, even if it winds up being something that dissolves a friendship or whatever, but I just need to have it out there so I'm not carrying it and other people are not having to carry that energy. And I feel like that just kept hitting me very, like, in my intuitive sense, very, very strongly as we were closing out here. Like the ability to move on from the burdens of secrets, to have them out there, deal with the consequences of them, let the truth be there, and then there's just this nice stabilization that eventually is coming. I don't think this is coming this month, but eventually comes from that. So that's kind of my synopsis of the month.
Can I reflect on that real quick before we truly close out? Because, oh my gosh, your spidey senses. I mean, we know this about you. They are always so on
Sun,
point.
Neptune conjunction to your rescue. You're welcome.
Exactly. Now, what is so interesting and why I got so excited when you said the releasing secrets thing is because that came up for me specifically when I was looking at the Aquarius eclipse. And I made that connection not through my spidey senses, but through the tarot association of Decan 3 of Aquarius, which is the 7 of Swords, right? That fucker's real sneaky, right? He's like getting away with something. And then I had to, because I didn't know off the top of my head, check out what's Decan 3 of the Pisces new moon that we sort of close out the month of March moving through. And it's the 10 of Cups. And doesn't that illustrate like how releasing those secrets and doing the good and honest work can result in these beautiful treasures inside that we find and can move forward with. So, that was beautiful.
Totally. I think another theme of the month that I would want to elevate is just to not miss what's happening to you because you don't have your mindset right. Not that there's one right mindset, but an example I shared earlier in this podcast was, you know, say you're manifesting money and you're going, I want money in my bank account. I want money in my bank account. My lawyer gave me a $3,000 discount. Doesn't that also count as money? But not if I'm not looking for it. If I'm not looking for it and at the end of the month, my bank account hasn't changed, I'm going to have missed that. So, you know, to Whitney's point about feeling pride in ourselves, that's something that I constantly have to tell my clients. The astrology consuming audience constantly needs to be reminded and given permission to feel proud of how far they've come, because a lot of the work we're doing is work that people will die never having known was work they could do, first of all. But second of all, celebrating those wins is tied into that pride piece. Don't forget that there are wins. They might not look the way you expected. And that's a soapbox for another time. But if you're a Sun Jupiter person, you can get away with these very, very specific visions and goals and writing out exactly what you want in laundry list format. If you're a Moon Venus person, you need to be more broad with what you're asking for. It's not going to work to say, I need X dollars in my bank account. It's going to work to say, I want financial liberation. I want to feel really good about my finances. That's what's going to work. So thinking more about that. But my last note, I think, is just that, Alex, you had mentioned, we're talking about the secret keeping. I think for some people, their identity has been a secret. Their real authentic self has been masquerading in collective appeasement. And that is a huge theme of this month. And I just want to re-say again, if you need to come out as an individual human, even if only to yourself in the mirror, this is a really good month to start doing that, because in April, you know, we have less of a choice. We have less of a choice. Okay, thank you guys so much. This has been freaking amazing. I'm so glad the unmasked trio, well, maybe we're all going to come out as individuals this month. We're back in action, baby, and I loved every minute of it. Thank you guys so much for joining me to talk about March.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you so much.
Oh,
Love
you're
just
welcome.
hanging out with you
Thank
too.
you.
It
My
was
God.
amazing.
Just an excuse to hang out. It's really fun.
Basically. All right,
And
cool.
we get to do this every month.
I know.
How fucking cool is that?
Yeah, we're going to see you guys here every month. Can't wait to talk about April. Obviously, as you heard, we're all pretty excited about that. And if you guys have comments, questions about what's going on this month, want to share that with us, let us know. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you in April.
Bye.